Margaret, let me start with you. The driver behind this was the Chicano or Mexican American Studies in the Tucson School District. What is wrong with that program?
Well, what's wrong with that program is that it divides students based on nationality, and we believe that what they're doing is teaching students that they are oppressed in this classroom. And first of all, we don't believe that that's a good way to teach students, is to separate them based on nationality or ethnicity, and also to teach them that they are oppressed in living in this country.
Well, how does it separate them by nationality and by race, and how does it teach them that they're oppressed?
Well, by the very nature of they have courses, Raza, which translates to the race for Hispanics. The books that they are using in that classroom, one of them is Occupied America, which teaches the kids that they are living in Mexico, and this is a country that was taken from them, and that they need to take it back. And we believe.
We spoke with the author of that book, Rodolfo Acuna, who says that Occupied America is just a historical reference to the Spanish invasion. It's got nothing to do with Arizona.
Well, there's also a quote in there that's very disturbing to me that says, a quote that says, "to kill the gringo." And to me, that is very disturbing that we have students being referenced that type of information.
Let me bring in Kathy, if I could here, Kathy, because supporters of this program say they're simply connecting students with their cultural past. There's nothing in here about teaching resentment against another ethnic group or against another race. What do you think of what Arizona's doing?
Well, I think what Arizona is doing is what it has been doing. I think it's an anti-immigrant movement. I think that Governor Brewer is acting like Governor Wallace from Alabama from the 60s. And I think her signing this bill today just shows that they're moving more toward that. It's actually anti-Mexican movement. I don't even know if you'd say anti-immigrant movement. It's anti-Mexican. And they're saying it's for the sake of education and enlightening these children. But it's not. It's purely political.
Margaret, this has actually caught the attention of the United Nations. They released a statement on what's going on there in Arizona, calling it, quote, a disturbing pattern of legislative activity hostile to ethnic minorities and immigrants. You know, this together with the recently passed immigration law, are Latinos under siege in your state?
Well, it's unfortunate that there was a timing of 1070 and also, but we have been looking into this curriculum for the last 4 years. I am Hispanic descent, and when I went to the public schools, they taught me and taught other students of our Hispanic descent that we could go to our public schools and be successful and go on to colleges and be whatever we wanted to be in this country, because it was a land of opportunity, not that we were oppressed by the democracy of this country.
Kathy, a couple of news organizations have taken a look at these programs. Going back to 2006, AP found that a Hispanic rights activist told students in the classroom that, quote, Republicans hate Latinos. The LA Times also reported that some of these classrooms have revolutionary posters and slogans on the walls. You heard what Margaret just said. Can you see that some people might be uncomfortable with what's being taught in those classrooms?
Well, I was a teacher. I was a high school teacher. I have a master's in education. I taught in 2 states in the South. And you always meet some rogue teachers. You might see some teachers that are saying things that are not always exactly appropriate, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the coursework is bad or that the actual books are teaching inappropriate matters. So I don't think the school system in Arizona was teaching such inappropriate coursework that now it had to be outlawed. It had to be banned from the schools. That's impossible. I'm sure many principals had walked into those classrooms and saw that it was appropriate.
If I could interrupt, I went down to Tucson after Dolores Huerta gave a speech that said all Republicans hate Latinos. I went down to speak to give the counter to that argument. When I gave my speech, and it was not to indoctrinate them to any political view, but to tell them to think for themselves, research, and then make their decision. These students, halfway through my speech, got up, turned their backs to me, their mouths were taped, and walked out. The principal had no control of those students. They walked out, treated me with total disregard of a guest. In my 30 years in education, I've never seen students treat a person, a guest in a school, the way I was treated. I would say that they did not learn that at home from their parents. They learned that from teachers in that school, from the type of teaching that's going on in that school about the political ideology that's in those classrooms.
Kathy, you want to make one more point, then we've got to wrap it up.
I have to disagree. You can't say that all the opinions that students have in life, it comes from the classroom, from a teacher. We only have them a small part of the day. The majority of the day is spent watching TV, hanging out with their parents, hanging out in society. So you can't say that those opinions were formed because of one ethnic class and one statement from one woman.
Folks, obviously we're going to hear a lot more about this, and we'll keep watching this story very, very closely. Margaret Dugan, Kathy Yaru, thanks for being with us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.